Welcome to Around the ECHL. The Allen Americans getting ready to play the Fort Wayne Komets in the Western Conference Finals. The voice of the Fort Wayne Komets, Shane Albahrani, joining us here now on Around the ECHL. Looks like a nice day in Fort Wayne. Is that your back patio?
It is a beautiful day. Yes, I am on the back patio. I decided, you know what, it's a day where it's not too hot and it's nice to do a podcast outside for once.
Well, we thank you for doing this. I watched the game last night. Oh man, it was intense, back and forth, back and forth. Jenks didn't have his typical game like he did in the series, but I noticed him a lot last night on the ice. He's just one of those guys that, even though he's not on the score sheet, he's always playing a past. One of those guys that can really disrupt it. And I like the way he plays the game. 4 points. He's tied, with the team lead with Harper. Exciting young rookie. Nellis, you always got to watch out for him. Take us through the series there with Wichita, starting with the series and the practice rink.
Yeah. You know what? This was one for the never seen that before books. And you've been around a long time. I have too. And once you think you've seen it all, you certainly haven't. And going into Wichita, the practice rink, I was actually kind of excited for it because it was something unique, something, you don't get to do. So in that regard, it still was, but it was an incredible hostile environment. Let's just say that a little bit different than what you do at a normal arena. So, you have the fans right on top of you. And it was, we felt like we were fighting just about everything on those two games, but you came away with one win the first night, and that's what you're looking for. You're going on the road the first two, you want the split. That's really, that's what you're looking for. And that's what happened.
Yeah. We, same situation here in Allen. We knew Utah was a great team going into the playoffs. As a matter of fact, they had beat us 3 out of 4 games a couple weeks before the season ended. Different team, though, for Allen into the playoffs. And it was a tight series, even though the Americans swept them. We went to double overtime to finish it off last Friday night. And I was telling my broadcast partner at the time, I said, I just have this feeling, I'm not going to say it on the air, but the series is ending tonight. Just one of those gut feelings. Nothing. No money in Vegas put on the game, but just had a feeling it was going to end. And Les Lancaster, who finished up runner-up for MVP with the game winner there in OT. Maybe it was just a little, hey, not saying, he should have won the MVP. I am saying that he should have won the MVP. I felt that, what he did second half of the year was just amazing. And doing it from the blue line, the numbers he put up hadn't been done in 20 years. And no disrespect to Beauregard, because I think he's a great player, but I think you had to look at what Les did second half of the year, and he would have had my vote if I could have voted for Les. He couldn't do it, but he had a great season.
Yeah, that doesn't make me feel any better. Thinking that here's a guy who should have won the MVP, and we just beat the MVP, and now we're going to go against this guy. So not exactly feeling me full of confidence. And actually, the guy who scares me the most is Matt Register, because whenever we run into this guy during the playoffs, he just adds to the playoff misery. You got Allen, you've got Colorado, and you've got Toledo. That's 3 times, and now we're looking at a 4th time facing Reggie in the playoffs.
Yeah, and Reg does step up his game in the postseason. I'm really looking forward to this series here. We don't know a whole lot about Fort Wayne other than we know Zach Pachiro, we know Nick Boca, we know both those guys are on the roster. Pachiro didn't play last night, but give us a rundown about your season, because you played, even though you're in the Western Conference, your games were primarily played against teams in the East, which is, crazy. I know fans would email me, why is Fort Wayne in our conference? They're not playing anybody. And why are they ahead of us? And they've only played, I'm like, hey, they had to figure out some way to make this season happen. Be thankful we're playing hockey. We're not, packing it in like we did last year. But, take us through your season, if you would, Shane, and how crazy was that, not knowing if you were going to play? And then when you finally find out you are going to play, you're not starting with the rest of the league. It had to be just a roller coaster year for you.
Yeah, I know it was. And, really up until the day that we had to decide that we were playing, we didn't know. And it was eventually, it just came down to, what, let's do this. We are, we've been around. Next year will be our 70th anniversary. We've never missed a season. Let's not break that streak. We can't have 70 years, but 69 seasons, so that was part of it as well. And, quite frankly, the business community, the fans, they wanted us to play. So
Yeah.
in hindsight, we knew we've made the right decision. Playing in the West, it is what it is. It's just the way it happened. And, we only got to play 2 teams from the West, Wichita and Utah, and then Wichita again in the playoffs. But you know what? We had a good time playing Indy. That's a great rivalry, Fort Wayne and Indy. So it was fun to really to reignite that, because the Komets have kind of put their rivalry really to Toledo, and that Indy one hasn't really blossomed yet. But now I think it's really going to, after playing them, 21 times. So no, it was great. We were it's like you said, Tommy, we were playing hockey, so it doesn't matter who we were playing.
Yeah. Let's talk about Pachiro a minute. I know fans here are excited about seeing Zach. He was a popular guy. He did a lot for this team out in the community. He was one of those guys that never said no. I could call him on a Sunday morning at 6 a.m. and say, hey, can you join us for, an event at noon? And he would always say yes. And that's the one thing I loved about Pachiro. It was nearly a point a game guy, 29 points on the season. How was his first season in Fort Wayne?
Zach had to fight through some injuries. I think he missed 10 to 12 games kind of right in the middle of the season with a hand injury. So, he had a little, he had a quick start. He came out, and I think he scored a hat trick in the first couple of games, and he was feeling his way, and I think he was still getting in shape. And we were like, oh, what's this guy going to do when he actually puts it all together? Yeah. And unfortunately, the injury bug hit him a little bit, so that slowed him down. But Zach has been terrific. I had him on my podcast, and he's a terrific talk and a really terrific guy. And we were glad to get him. And we got him late. We didn't sign him until the 1st of September. But that just goes where we had a lot of guys, who, Justin Vive, a guy who fell in our lap, there at the end as well, because not sure if we were going to play or not. Brandon Hawkins, so, it was great seeing those guys come to Fort Wayne, especially after you've been battling them for so many years.
Justin Vive, interesting name, great hockey name. That is Rick Vive's son, correct?
Yeah. And I told Justin, I said, you know what? I think the first season you were in Cincinnati, I think I called you Rick about 10 times. Because it's just ingrained in my head. So, yeah. And then he was a guy, who beat us up in Cincy, and it was awesome to see him in a Comet uniform.
Yeah, no doubt. So much history with the Komets. You talked about, your 70th year coming up, which is amazing. I don't think I've ever talked to you about this, but what was it like to follow the man? It's funny because having grown up in Buffalo and followed the Sabres since I was a little kid, I listened to Generette when I was a little kid. I told him that one time when they came to Dallas, for a Stars game, and I got an opportunity to talk to him. I said, I've been listening to you since I was 5 years old. And he laughed and he said, well, you just ruined my night. He said, that makes me feel really old. And I said, no. I didn't mean it that way. I just meant, you are the Sabres, the history of the Sabres. And, Dan Dunleavy will be the eventual successor to Generate if he ever decides to retire. You took over for the man, Bob Chase. I mean, there's not many broadcasters that I would be in awe of, but when I met Bob for the first time, what do you say to a guy who's, 90 years old, who's done everything in the world, traveled up and down the highways on that bus for umpteen years? Obviously we know his story and his relationship with Mike Emmerich and that great feature. I happened to be in Dallas when he was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame, the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame, with Mike Modano and several guys that night, Eddie Olczyk. And I happened to be there when Bob Chase was inducted. So I was very honored to be a part of that. But what's it like for you, the guy that takes over for the legend, thinking every time I say something, our fans going to go, well, that's not Bob Chase. He would never say that. Who is this Shane guy? Did that go through your mind at all when you first took over?
No, because it never did. Because the Komets, the whole organization, the fan base, they are family, and I've been a Komet fan since forever. Since I was a little kid, and I've worked for the club all now 24 years. So I wasn't an outsider. I was already a member of the family. So I was, already well received and well accepted. So I never got that. And plus, Bob, gave me the blessing right away. So, it was really nice that I got to share the mic with Bob. That also helped as well, because I didn't come in, you don't want to serve people Coca-Cola for 60 years and then you give them, Diet Shasta. So it was nice to be able to share the mic with Bob. There at the end, Bob was doing the home games, I was doing the road games. So it was equal time and everybody got to know me. So no, I mean, I never got that. And plus, you know what? Bob taught me everything I know. I was a Bob clone. So it was like when I fell into that seat, a lot of people would say, who had been listening to the Komets, since the team started, I have a lot of older people say, you sound like Bob in 1962. Wow. And that's a tremendous compliment. I get that a lot. I do have, of course, my side too, but there's things that I say that's exactly how Bob would say it. And sure. I'm okay with that because that's how I was taught. I was anointed the one, years before I actually sat in his chair, and that was great because I was just able to kind of take it in and prepare myself for that moment. And it was, it was wonderful. Bob took such good care of me over the years. I mean, he took me under his wing when I was, just a kid, really just a teenager. So yeah, I mean, he kind of handpicked me, this is the guy, he gets it. He's a member of the family, he's going to do just fine. So, you really couldn't have brought somebody in from the outside to do that. So I know I was honored in that regard as well, not just to follow Bob, but to be entrusted with that as well. Yeah. But it was great. The only night that I remember, where I really kind of lost it was the night he died, because we had a game. He died on Thanksgiving Day, and we have an annual Thanksgiving Day game, and that was always his favorite game of the year too. He loved that game, and he died that morning, and that was the time that I really felt very, very lonely, because Bob wasn't with me. I was on my own. He said, here you go, here's my seat, it's now yours. And even though it was something that it was going to happen one day, you're still not prepared for it.
Shane Albahrani, the voice of the Fort Wayne Komets, joining us here. Do you ever get the feeling some night, Shane, that he's up there with you? Not to be eerie or whatever, but no, just, do you ever get that feeling?
There are nights, well, let's put it this way, Tommy. Game number 3 back at the Coliseum against Wichita. I don't do this very often, but I felt, we needed a little extra, and I called on a higher power. When this happens, I have Bob's headset that he called his last game in. Ironically enough, against the Allen Americans. Wow. So when I need that, I plug him in and I call the games with Bob's headset. So no, I mean, Bob's always with me, right there. And there's constantly throughout the game, I can hear Bob calling the game right in one of my ears. And there's nights where it's like, what would Bob say if I'm lost for words? Yeah. And I know what Bob would say. So I roll with that.
Absolutely. And I don't want to make this all about Bob. I mean, but you know what, the one thing I think about, he definitely needs to have a lot of memorabilia in the Hall of Fame for what he did. You think maybe someday that headset you were just talking about, you referenced, it should be in there, right? Police? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I had 2 headsets. I gave one to his family, so I have one. But yeah, maybe someday, I'll give that up. But right now, I feel it's very comforting knowing that I still have that and still able to pull it out and use it from time to time. But yeah, Bob's legacy and what he did for the game, he was given the Lester Patrick Award, and let's face it, not very many people get that. That's reserved for Gordie Howe. Yep. That's reserved for Wayne Gretzky and Doc Emmerich, who another guy, a lot of people don't realize that if it wasn't for Bob Chase, we don't have Doc Emmerich. Right. No, I mean, it can't be overstated. We can't talk about Bob enough. I will never get tired of it. So I feel like I'm the keeper of the legacy. So I have no problems when anyone wants to talk about Bob. It doesn't bother me one bit because it's one of my favorite subjects. So it's great, and I can go back and I can think of all the stories that Bob told me, and I can think of all the stories I just have about Bob, just me listening to him as a kid. So yeah, I mean, I would love to see him in the Hall of Fame, but the NHL, they've recognized him, the Lester Patrick Award, and what he did for hockey is really incredible. And what he did, for the not just the Komet franchise, but again, hockey in general. He brought hockey to so many people, and it was the power of WOWO radio, one of the biggest radio stations in the country. And it was because of him and because of Bob Chase and that radio station is the reason why, we do have a lot of hockey in this country. It's because of that.
Absolutely. It's funny. I was talking to Michael Franke a little bit earlier today. Obviously, a great family in Fort Wayne. And I said, you know, Michael, I said, this really needs to be the Jamie Shaftsma Bowl, if you will. Captain of both teams. Obviously, he's, you know, when his kids were little, you know, they were here in Allen, and they had the red on. And, you know, I was watching a video, I think maybe that Shafts had put up last night, and his younger son had on the Komets t-shirt last night, and I thought, man, you know, this really is it's Shaftsma Bowl Part 2. Last time he was involved in it, you know, you were here. I wonder, you know, who he's rooting for in this series. I'm going to have to contact him and find out, because he was captain of both teams.
Yeah. You know, I haven't talked to Shaft since he left Fort Wayne, and you know, I know he's doing very well back in Canada, and you know, we shared some good times together, and as you know, he's one of the good ones. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, you know, who he picks. Yeah, I mean, he was a great guy, and it was really fitting that his first year in Fort Wayne, we got to play Allen in the playoffs, and I thought it was really cool. And, you know, he had such stories, and what was great about Shasma, you know, he was a guy who played with our head coach, Ben Boudreau, in Flint. And those two guys, I loved getting those two guys and just telling Flint stories, you know, so, you know what, so Shaft, yeah, I mean, he's a hockey lifer, and he's a guy who's got stories, and you know, it's wonderful that he's doing so well. And you know, we were honored to have him, you know, wear the C on the Komets sweater, even though it was just for a brief time.
How's it worked out for Benny? You know, I mean, that's interesting. You make that switch, the big, you know, you go from the you know, the medical staff training team to all of a sudden you're the head coach. How's it worked out for him?
It's, you know, it worked out very well. You know, Benny is a guy who, you know, his dad, Bruce, played and coached in Fort Wayne. He got his coaching start in Fort Wayne, and he played his last games in Fort Wayne as well. So, you know, Ben grew up here. You know, he was a little 8-year-old kid running around the Coliseum when his dad would coach in here. So he was certainly well-versed in Fort Wayne, living here for a little bit when he was a kid, and then playing in Flint and coming into the barn and playing. And so, you know, he wasn't a stranger, you know, even though he hadn't been around Fort Wayne for some time, but he certainly fit in rather well. And that's why, you know, we brought him to Fort Wayne.
I know some Allen fans are going to make this trip just because one of the great buildings that, you know, you don't get the opportunity to go see every day. We've only played there a handful of times. And if not for that playoff series, it would have been just, I mean, I remember coming in one road trip, we actually rolled in there at about 4:00 in the morning, and we were coming from Toledo, and that was the second game of our road trip. And I remember going up to the press box, like the building was dark, and I was even a little bit creeped out going then, you know, upstairs looking, wow, you know, it's dark in here. It's a huge building. You look down, you see the ice. It really is one of those great buildings. Matter of fact, our president's coming along, Mike Waddell. He wants to see all the logos on the ice. You know, you live it. You're there. You know those Komets fans. He said it's one big family. For our Allen fans that might be coming, Shane, what are they in for?
You know what? It's been interesting because, you know what, this team normally averages about 8,000 a game. So, you know, that obviously has been diminished, you know, with the safety protocols and the limited capacity. So, you know, we had over, you know, in the neighborhood of 3,300 last night. So that was, I believe, the biggest crowd of the season, coupled with Saturday. So, you know, so that's what we're up against. But, you know, when you come to Fort Wayne, you know, that 3,300, they're going to be quite spirited, even though, you know, they're not quite the numbers they normally are because of everything. But you know what, this is a hockey town. They know their hockey. They love their Komets, and you know what, they'll enjoy the atmosphere. You know, Komet fans are also very welcoming. They love to see other fans come into the barn and enjoy Komet hockey. Like you said, it's one of the kind of underrated hockey barns. Next year will be its 70th anniversary. It's held up so well. It has been renovated, but it's still, you know, you go down, especially in the lower level, and you walk around, it's the same concrete. You go into the bathrooms, it's the same. You know, a lot of stuff is the same, and you know, it still has that old feel, especially at the lower level. So yeah, I mean, it's a great place to see a hockey game. It looks big time, but really, you know what, it's still a minor league hockey barn, and it's great. You
know what I love about it, Shane? It's I think it's the only one in the league where there's a soda fountain right behind me. Is it still there? Is it still?
You know what? It's still there, but again, because of protocols, we've shut it down for the season.
Oh man, you just ruined my whole trip.
I know.
I was so ready.
Too. I've had to
Wow.
suffer through it too.
Well, I look forward to catching up with you. And Alan, first, great to have you on the road. Like I said, you've called some playoff games in this building, and
Yeah.
it should be fun. Both these teams have had amazing years. Don't know a whole lot about each other. I'm sure Martinson is catching up on some video, looking at some of his former players, Pachero and Boca, and some familiar names. I'm really excited to see Vibe again because we played, Cincinnati a few years ago. Boy, and he was a beast against us. So it should be a great series. Last thing quickly on Ferguson, because I watched that game last night, and I hope I'm being fair by saying this. He's had some games where he's been unbelievable and had some games where he's, been a little bit shaky.
Yeah, and people are kind of hard on Fergie, but people don't realize is that he's been pro now for 2 seasons and he's still considered a rookie. He's just not been able to get starting time. It's been injuries. He's been called up, so you get called up and you're sitting on the bench, and in the AHL you're not getting the starts, you're not getting the reps, and the poor kid has just had some bad luck. But as you can see, he is now the man. He is the guy, and he's and the better he's going to get better and better. You can see he's got talent for days, and now that he is getting he's seen shots and he's now getting every start, and he knows he's going to get every start. The confidence is rising with this kid every day. It's
really going to be a fun series, Shane. I mean, I'm so excited, and getting an opportunity to actually travel to one of the great hockey venues. And hey, believe me, I always check the schedule to see what's going on. And I happen to notice as we fly in on Sunday that the Cubs are home against the Miami Marlins at 1:20 that afternoon. So you can bet your bottom dollar the flight I'm going to be on will be there well before 1:20, and that's my hope. I want to be at Wrigley Field for a game on Sunday afternoon.
Hey, yeah, that's great. Yeah, you'll be able to do that. And actually with this series, with the win last night, a dream of mine, Friday's my birthday. There's never been a hockey game on my birthday. Obviously, it's never going to happen again. So I'm looking forward to that. That's just one more story that you put in the book.
Well, maybe I can buy you a Diet Coke after the game.
That'll be great.
Absolutely. Oh, and Kapellmaster, I can't get away. It's funny because some of our fans immediately, when he was signed, said, I wonder if they signed him just thinking maybe they were going to face Allen in the second round. And, hey, it's happened before.
Yeah, a little advanced scouting never hurts.
Absolutely.
Justin was available, and the Komets have just had kind of rotten luck with goaltenders this year. I think Cap was our 7th of the season.
Yeah.
So he was available, certainly a quality goaltender, won 2 games in the American League, and you know what, playing 19 games with the Americans when they could possibly be in your future, not bad either. So we're happy to have him on board. He's a great kid, and I'm sure he's going to be maybe the 3rd coach on the bench coming up this weekend.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Unbelievable. Like you mentioned, had the huge numbers in Cleveland. I mean, they better than some American Hockey League goaltenders put up in that short stretch. And the one thing I was told him, I said, you know what? I said, you look more like you could be a lawyer than a goaltender. If you take a look at him, you would expect to see him at a courtroom somewhere and not between the pipes. But tell Cappy we said hi, and Shane can't wait to see you on Friday night.
Yeah, I'll be down there, and I'll be ready. It is going to be a good time. I'm really looking forward to it.
And an early happy birthday.
Thank you, sir.
All right. That is, of course, the voice of the Fort Wayne Komets. They're coming to town, ladies and gentlemen, on Friday and Saturday. Shane Albahrani, thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.